more money has to be put into it, and yes, it'll be transferred down to the provinces, and we have to ensure that the provinces are going to provide the services that are required. But at the federal level, we have put in an additional $198 billion over 10 years, including $46 billion in new funding for provinces and territories that we want to see gets transferred over into our hospital system and our healthcare workers. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member will have 5 minutes of questions and comments after question period when this subject is back before the House. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Halifax West.
Madam Speaker, in the heart of Halifax West is a pristine piece of nature that calls to visitors from near and far, the Blue Mountain Birch Cove Lakes Wilderness Area. Long before I became an MP, I would hear about how significant this natural gem is to residents in my community. Back in October 2021, Friends of Blue Mountain Birch Cove Lakes was my very first meeting as a Member of Parliament. We pored over maps of the area and talked about the exciting opportunity for a national urban park that lay ahead. Since then, Parks Canada has worked with stakeholder groups, other levels of government, and the Mi'kmaq to conserve nature and support reconciliation at Blue Mountain Birch Cove Lakes. I thank everyone whose advocacy and partnership has helped us get to this today. I'm looking forward to sharing more on our progress soon as we work towards making Blue Mountain Birch Cove Lakes the first national urban park in Atlantic Canada. Merci.
The honourable member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, cancer is a life-altering experience that, unfortunately, too many Canadians have gone through. It remains the leading cause of death in Canada. In April, the Canadian Cancer Society runs the Daffodil Campaign. Let us not forget to recognize and support their admirable work for patients, survivors, and loved ones affected by cancer. We, in this place, have joined forces with the Canadian Cancer Society through a all-party parliamentary caucus so that parliamentarians can better address this disease that affects 1 out of every 4 Canadians. Many of my Conservative colleagues are excited to be part of this caucus and will firmly support the Society's goal to increase access to palliative care across Canada. This is just one example of how we can take further action. Lastly, let's thank the many researchers, patients, survivors, donors, and volunteers who assist in the fight against cancer and preventing the disease. Many are here in Ottawa today, and we thank you for your efforts. As Canadians, let's work together and make a difference for everyone.
The honourable member for Vancouver Grenville.
Sure. This April marks the beginning of the Canadian Cancer Society's Daffodil Campaign, which raises awareness and funding for Canadians who have been diagnosed with cancer, as well as cancer research. We all know someone who has been affected by cancer: a friend, a parent, a child, a neighbor. Almost 50% of Canadians, young or old, from all backgrounds. This is why it is so important to make sure that we do all that we can to support preventative care, research, and treatment in the fight against cancer. The Daffodil Campaign's impact can be felt from coast to coast to coast as it supports nationwide support systems and helps to support world-class research right here in Canada. Across Canada, Canadians are stepping up. In my own community of Vancouver this weekend, the Canadian Cancer Society hosted the Daffodil Ball to raise money in support of cancer research in BC and across Canada. This year they raised $3 million. I urge all my colleagues to support the Canadian Cancer Society's Daffodil Campaign, wear your daffodil pin, and continue the fight against cancer. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I'm happy to recognize the talent of an artist from Salaberry-sur-Roi, Claude Tivierge. His most recent achievement speaks for itself. Mr. Tivierge created a coin featuring a grey wolf struck in black and gold in a design which evokes the yin and the yang. This majestic coin was awarded the International Mint of the Year prize. What an achievement! In his creative process, the artist from Rivière-Baudette is inspired by wildlife. He is driven by the duality of our wild and human nature. Mr. Tivierge is very prolific and does not hesitate to share his talent. With his colleague Madeleine Turgeon, he recently unveiled 9 colorful works of art that brighten up the Sur-Roi Hospital's pediatric ward, much to the delight of patients, their loved ones, and healthcare staff. Congratulations to you, Claude Tivierge. This new accolade is a tribute to your talent. Congratulations. The Honourable Member for Orléans. Mr. Speaker, it's an honor to recognize today the new star and ambassador of Orléans, Sophie Grenier. Sophie won Season 9 of the television show La Voix in Quebec. From the beginning of the season, her musical performances were unanimously praised by the coaches and by the audience because of her strong voice and the emotion she conveys during her performances. She was successful not only because of her talent, but also because of the hard work she put in from an early age at Singhouse Studios in Orleans, under the guidance of owner Chantal Hackett. Singhouse Studios is a small, community-oriented business that supports the musical education of young Franco-Ontarians. Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud to honor and recognize Sophie Grenier. I thank her for representing the Franco-Ontarian community through music and song in Quebec, in Canada, and abroad. Thank you.
For Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, while Canadians from across the country are struggling to make ends meet thanks to inflation and the skyrocketing cost of living, this Prime Minister and his Liberal cronies have never had it so good. Despite the fact that the Prime Minister has been found guilty of breaking the ethics laws twice, and his party has been found guilty of breaking the ethics laws 6 times, violations continue to run rampant. Not only did the Prime Minister give her best friend a $23,000 contract, the Housing Minister then gave a whopping $93,000 to his senior staff's PR firm. While Canadians have never struggled more, across this country, including in Saskatchewan, 20% are skipping meals, and they simply can't afford them. More than half the population are paying over $200 monthly on home heating. Not to mention the carbon tax is making things even worse. That's right. The corrupt, out-of-touch Liberals are thriving while they sit on Canadians' backs and watch them suffer. Mr. Speaker, it is time to make Canada proud, honoured, and respected once again. It's time for a new Conservative government. That's right.
The Honourable Member for Brampton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, this Friday, April 21st, or Saturday, April 22nd, based on the moon sighting, Muslims across the world, including myself, several members of this House, and many of my constituents in Brampton Centre, will celebrate Eid al-Fitr. Eid al-Fitr marks the end of the month of Ramadan, where Muslims fast daily from dawn to dusk, participate in communal prayers, and give back to their communities. Eid celebrations traditionally last 3 days, starting with a special prayer on Eid morning. The festivities also include sharing meals, giving gifts, and spending times with family, friends, and community. To all of the Muslims who will be celebrating Eid al-Fitr this weekend, from my family to yours, Eid Mubarak. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for York Centre.
Speaker, every April, the Canadian Cancer Society hosts its Daffodil Campaign, a symbol of strength, resilience, and courage for those living with cancer. Today, they and cancer survivors have come to Ottawa to share their experiences and advocate for better cancer care. Cancer is the leading cause of death for Canadians. Nearly half of us can expect to be diagnosed with cancer at some point in our lives. And if not ourselves, then we will be affected by the toll on family and friends in supporting someone we know and love who's going through their fight against cancer. Mothers, fathers, husbands and wives, siblings and friends, we all know someone who is bravely meeting the fight, or in some cases mourning the loss of a loved one. We also have hope, Mr. Speaker. We proudly wear daffodil pins in support of those affected by cancer and recognize the incredible research and progress that is underway to accelerate change. Many cancers are no longer a death sentence that they once were. With more research and treatments, more preventative screening and palliative care, each day we are closer to the goal of saving lives. Together, Mr. Speaker, we can and will continue to work towards a brighter, cancer-free future for all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Cumberland Colchester.
Mr. Speaker, the 18th and 19th of April 2020 is a day ingrained in the memories of all Nova Scotians and indeed all Canadians. Today marks 3 years since an inexplicable madman inserted himself into the lives of 22 Nova Scotians and an unborn baby. The hurt and disbelief continues now to be a part of everyday life. Events such as this do not happen in Canada, let alone in small communities such as Portapique, Nova Scotia. Words fail when we attempt to understand the gravity of the situation, when we attempt to grasp the ongoing rawness of emotions, or attempt to understand the how and the why this happened. Our thoughts at times are frozen as we attempt to process, to interpret, and to explain the shock, the horror, and the sadness experienced by all affected. Those of us left behind need to continue to honor their memory, to ensure the terrible events are not forgotten, and to hold accountable the systems and institutions which failed these Canadians in their time of greatest need. I invite everyone in the House to keep all of those left behind, and especially the families, in your thoughts and in your prayers.
The honourable member for Toronto Danforth.
Mr. Speaker, what is over 27,000 kilometres connects us from coast to coast to coast, travels through urban, rural, wildlands and waterways? Well, it's a Trans-Canada Trail. It's a beautiful pathway that connects us all. It's something where we can all go out, no matter what our ability, and explore the world around us. Last year, we made the largest single investment in the Trans-Canada Trail. It goes towards enhancements, maintenance, expansion, and it's something that we can all enjoy together. My favorite part is in the ravines around the Don Rab Valley and along the waterways. But you know what? In all of our backyards, there's a place for us to be able to explore. So I invite everyone, check out the Trans-Canada Trail. Let's celebrate this wonderful network that connects us all.
Bravo! The honourable member for Mission Matsky, Fraser Canyon.
Mr. Speaker, just this past Christmas, the Prime Minister and his family holidayed at a luxurious estate in Jamaica belonging to a wealthy family that just so happened to have recently made a large donation to the Trudeau Foundation. Who would have thought? While 1 in 5 Canadians are skipping meals, this Prime Minister's lavish and luxurious family trip cost taxpayers $160 grand for security and staff accommodations. 9 in 10 youth believe they'll never afford a home. Our national debt has doubled. This morning, gas prices in the Fraser Valley hit $1.85. Inflation is at a 40-year high. After 8 years of this Prime Minister, Canadians can't catch a break, let alone pay for a vacation. When will this Prime Minister show some respect to Canadians, show some respect to our conflict of interest law, and stop wasting our taxpayer dollars on trips with wealthy donors?
The honourable member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Some residents in Vancouver are resorting to dumpster diving to combat high food prices. That's today's headline in the Globe and Mail. Here's another shocking stat. Food banks and other programs serving vulnerable Canadians are expected to serve 60% more people per month in 2023. So it's fair to say we have a cost of living crisis, Mr. Speaker, in this country. And where is our Prime Minister? During this pain and suffering and increase in financial anxiety. Well, he's taking luxurious and extravagant vacations to Jamaica that cost taxpayers $162,000. He's staying in a $6,000 a night hotel room. He's surfing in Tofino in an $18.5 million rental property. This Prime Minister has a permanent pass on out-of-touch island. It is gross, it is insulting, and it is time for a new leader who respects Canadians and their money.
The honourable member for Cambridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last Sunday marked the 106th anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge. On April 9th, 1917, Canadians from coast to coast joined together on the beaches of Vimy Ridge to fight one of Canada's most decisive military victories. Thanks to the strong leadership of General Sir Arthur Currie and the use of innovative tactics such as the creeping barge and leaping frog to advance across no man's land, Vimy Ridge was taken in a day. But the battle came at a great cost. Nearly 3,600 Canadians lost their lives and over 7,000 more were wounded. On the event of Vimy Ridge Day, I encourage all members and all Canadians to reflect on their sacrifices and honor their bravery. Let us never forget their stories, their character, and their place in our great history, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Yom HaShoah is a day to remember the 6 million Jews who were murdered in the Holocaust, including members of my own family. All of my relatives were killed by the Nazis except for 5, my grandparents, father, and 2 uncles. My father, Albert Gazan, was 2.5 years old when the Germans invaded Holland. He spent the entire war in hiding, being sheltered by Dutch families. His mother, my grandmother, Gina Gazan, spent time in a concentration camp. Miraculously, they survived, but 3/4 of Dutch Jews did not. It was over a year until my father was reunited with my grandmother, and my other several months with my maternal grandmother. He became an advocate for peace, justice, and human rights. Their stories must be told and retold. We are seeing a rise of Holocaust denial and revisionism, and I fear this will get even worse after the last survivors pass away. We must not let their stories die and confront denial with truth. Today and every day, we remember, and we must also say never again.
L'honorable député d'Abitibi-Bay James.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Bay James, Nunavut EU. What could be more noble than giving freely and selflessly? What's more noble than the kindness of a person who makes the conscious decision to use his or her strength to lift up their entire community? That is what over 2 million Quebecers do every day as volunteers. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, during this 49th edition of National Volunteer Week, I would like to thank them. The theme this year is Volunteering Together in Unison. Under this theme, let us pay tribute to those who work every day with seniors and with our children. Let's honor these individuals who are active in our community organizations as well as in our care facilities and learning environments. These people, sometimes discreet but always generous, use their light to help others shine. This week, let's do the opposite. Let's make our volunteers the stars. Let's shine the spotlight on their essential role in Quebec society.
The honourable member for Cypress Hills Grasslands.
This Liberal government has close ties to the Trudeau Foundation, but the Prime Minister doesn't seem to care about accountability or transparency. First, he chose a special rapporteur who was previously a member of the same foundation to be investigated for foreign interference. And now he's making a desperate attempt to attack Conservatives. He wants to make it sound like the Trudeau Foundation is similar to an ordinary charity that's been victimized by partisanship from the opposition. But that's quite a stretch. This is an organization that is listed under a government department's portfolio. The Foundation's annual report also states that it reserves spots for the Minister of Innovation to appoint directors and members. And although the Prime Minister has officially divested his interests while holding public office, his name is still listed as a succession member. Sadly, the NDP have sold out their principles for a coalition with the Liberals and are not supporting our efforts for transparency. But even if the NDP Liberal coalition votes against it, Conservatives will demand nothing less than a fully independent inquiry.
The honourable member for Brampton South.
Mr. Speaker, in April we celebrate Sikh Heritage Month, which is a time to recognize and appreciate the rich history and culture of Sikhs in Canada and across the globe. We celebrate our heritage as a time of joy, the start of a vibrant harvest season, and the founding of the Khalsa Panth in 1699 by Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Mr. Speaker, Canada is a home to one of the largest Sikh population globally, and there are many organizations who are working hard to help the community, like Seva Food Bank, Khalsa Aid Canada, and many others. In fact, last week I saw 2 examples of selfless service as Aval Technologies founder Dara Singh Nagra donated $1 million to the Sikh Kids Foundation. There are true values of Sikhism and are shared with Canadians as well. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the residents in Brampton South, I wish everyone in Brampton and around the world happy Sikh Heritage Month and a very happy Vaisakhi. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Oral questions, question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So now on that.
A poll has stated that 2/3 of Canadians have to reduce their summer vacation plans, and even more have to, or rather, others have to eliminate them completely because of this Prime Minister's inflation. We learned today that not only has he asked taxpayers to pay $160 million for his holidays, but he received a holiday in a luxury villa from a donor for the Trudeau Foundation. Did the Prime Minister pay for his own lodgings at this villa? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, like the Leader of the Opposition knows full well, we have been friends with this family over the past 50 years, and we've already worked with the Ethics Commissioner to make sure that rules are followed. If the Leader of the Opposition was really preoccupied by the cost of living for Canadians, he would be in support of our budget that is here to deliver more money for Canadians during these difficult times. With a groceries reduction that we have asked this House to accelerate, with direct help also with dental care, and the Conservatives have voted against. We will be here to deliver for Canadians.
Le chef de l'opposition. Because of the galloping inflation this Prime Minister has caused, 2/3 of Canadians say they are cutting back on summer vacations, and 1/4 say they've canceled their vacations altogether, but they'll still have to pay for someone else's vacation. $160,000 of taxpayer expenses for the Prime Minister to go down to the private villa, luxurious villa of a super rich Trudeau Foundation donor, for which the nightly cost is as much as $9,000. How much did the Prime Minister pay for his accommodations at this luxurious villa?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our family have been good friends with this family for about 50 years, and as always, we work with the Ethics Commissioner to make sure that all rules are followed. But if Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition, was truly concerned about affordability for Canadians, he would be voting to support our budget that puts forward concrete measures to help Canadians from coast to coast to coast. He'd be fast-tracking the grocery rebate through this House to make sure that we can deliver as quickly as possible help to 11 million Canadians, and he wouldn't have stood to vote against the dental care supports that already helped about 250,000 young people right across this country.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This is a villa that rents out commercially for as much as $9,000 per night. If any other Canadian had stayed there, that's what they would have to have paid, and they would have to pay for their own airfare, not having a private jet. This Prime Minister wants us to believe that these Trudeau Foundation donors offered him a $9,000 a night vacation for nothing. We know nothing is free, Mr. Speaker. This is about influence and power for the super rich. So why won't he answer? How much should he pay in accommodation per night at this luxurious villa?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I guess, Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition struggles with the concept of friendship, Mr. Speaker. My father was godfather to one of their kids. Their father was godfather to one of my brothers. This is 50 years of friendship, Mr. Speaker. But, of course, we work with the Ethics Commissioners to make sure everything, all the rules were followed. But if the Leader of the Opposition wants to talk about friendships, let's talk about the fact that he's running to his American billionaire tech giant friends to attack the local news that Canadians are relying on. Shame on him for going after Canadian content, Canadian news, Canadian things that people care about.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The only thing Canadian about the Prime Minister's vacation is the tax dollars forced to pay for it, Mr. Speaker. But he refuses to answer the question. He knows that there's these powerful interests are buying influence, while making the Prime Minister more out of touch with the people on whom he is imposing his inflationary taxes and deficits. This is consistent with having already been found guilty for taking a $250,000 vacation from a billionaire that was seeking a government grant from him. If he's got nothing to hide, will he tell us, did he take these $9,000 a night villas for free?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, as the Leader of the Opposition knows well, there are certain security protocols that the RCMP need to follow for all Prime Ministers, regardless of political parties or partisan stripes. But again, Mr. Speaker, if the Leader of the Opposition was genuinely cared about affordability for Canadians, he would be voting in favour of our dental benefits that are helping hundreds of thousands of kids right now and will help millions of Canadians into the future, but he voted against it. He voted against tax cuts for the middle class while we raised them on the wealthiest 1%. And now he's running to his American billionaire buddies to go after local news for Canadians. That's not what Canadians...
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, this from a guy who took a $160,000 taxpayer-funded trip to a private villa for which there was no security reason that he couldn't pay for his own room. He took a $6,000 a night vacation in London, 2 weeks in Costa Rica in the middle of the summer, surfing in Tofino on Truth and Reconciliation Day at taxpayers' expense, and a guilty verdict for staying at Billionaire Island. Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister is out of touch and Canadians are out of money. When will he stop with these vacations and start working for the people in this country?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if the Conservative leader cared as much about Canadians as he does about partisan attacks, he would actually be stepping up to support our delivery of direct benefits to Canadians. He continues to stand against the child care agreements that are down to $10 a day in 6 provinces and territories across the country, and saving already Canadians right across the country hundreds and hundreds of dollars every single month. He'd be standing in favor of the dental care supports that we're sending to hundreds of thousands of kids instead of continuing to vote against them. He'd be accelerating the delivery of the grocery rebate to help 11 million Canadians.
L'honorable député de Belle...
The Honourable Member for Bailleul-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, friendship is great in Quebec. It is said that a friend is a friend. I won't be asking questions that won't get an answer from the Prime Minister. I'm sure that he knows that the Green family funded the Trudeau Foundation before he went there on holiday. So let's go to the next point. Can the Prime Minister tell Canadians and Quebecers how much are worth where he stayed, how much is worth where he stayed, and whether or not he paid out of pocket for this stay? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our families have been friends for 50 years, and when one has a friend, one often goes to visit them. And what we do ourselves, in our case, is to go through the Ethics Commissioner to see that all rules are followed. That's what we do every single time, and that's what Canadians expect of us. The Honourable Member for Bailleul-Chambly. The Ethics Commissioner should have been told that the Trudeau Foundation would also often receive money. Another subject. The Chinese government wants to give $1 million to the University of Montreal, not for friendship, but they go through an intermediary instead of protecting the most important university foundation in Quebec. The Trudeau Foundation is receiving $200,000 and is asking from the Prime Minister, well, does the Prime Minister admit that he is not part of any decision made when it comes to Chinese interference? Will he turn to this House to take action? Mr. Speaker, as I said, for 10 years I've had no direct work done with the foundation that has my father's name.
Burnaby South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadian families and workers have been hard hit by the inflation. But you know who's not hard hit by the inflation? CEOs. CEOs have made record salaries. In fact, the average CEO in our country makes 241 times more than the average employee. 241 times more. This is outrageous, and Canadians are frustrated by it, and they have the right to be. So will the Prime Minister realize that life is not all sun and beaches, and that we need to support our initiative to make sure we can raise the salary of workers and tackle this inequality?
Hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have been and will continue to remain committed to making sure everyone pays their fair share of taxes. We know the cost of living continues to be a real concern of Canadians, even with inflation coming down. With more good news today, we know that groceries remain too high. That's why we're moving forward with the grocery rebate for 11 million Canadians in a targeted way that will not contribute to inflation. And that's why we're hoping that all members in this House accelerate this grocery rebate so we can deliver it to Canadians who need it as quickly as possible.
That's right.
Member for Burnaby South.
Clearly, the Liberals are disconnected with people's reality. Our idea is simple. If a company like Loblaws can pay its CEO, Galen Weston, 431 times the salary of its employees, Loblaws can afford to do a little more to help our society. If the company wants to pay less tax, then they can increase salaries. Will the Prime Minister support our initiative to increase people's and workers' salaries? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, one of the first things we did was to reduce taxes for the middle class and increasing taxes for the richest 1%. We've continued to deliver measures that help those who need it by making sure that benefit checks are not being sent to millionaire families. We'll continue to be here to help people, also through the grocery rebate, and we ask everyone throughout this House to contribute in the acceleration of the delivery of these benefits through the approval of our budget, and I hope that all parliamentarians will work so that Canadians who need it receive this rebate as quickly as possible.
For Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Canadians got sky-high heating, grocery, rent and mortgage bills this holiday season, while this Prime Minister was sky-high in a private jet to another rich Liberal crony's private estate in the Caribbean on taxpayer dime, who happens to be a massive Trudeau Foundation donor. This out-of-touch trust fund Prime Minister doesn't understand or feel the pain that his inflation caused as 1.5 million Canadians go into a food bank in a single month. Will the Prime Minister stand up today and apologize for using taxpayers' money to vacation at a Trudeau Foundation donor's estate?
Hear, hear, hear.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
On the point of poverty, Mr. Speaker, when that party was in power, there were 2.7 million more people who were in poverty than there are today. That include 800,000 children. But, Mr. Speaker, I would ask the party opposite if they believe, because if a Prime Minister is to travel, there has to be security. So is their position either that there should be no security for a Prime Minister who travels on vacation with his family, or is their position that a Prime Minister should never take a vacation with his family?
Honourable Member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
He could have paid for his own vacation. I guess the Prime Minister went on vacation so Canadians wouldn't have to. And as Canadians pay $2,200 a month for rent, this Prime Minister stays in lavish $6,000 a night hotel rooms. 1 in 5 Canadians are skipping meals. He gets to charge $55,000 for groceries. 62% of Canadians have to scale back on vacations, while this Prime Minister charges Canadians to vacation on a huge Trudeau Foundation donor's estate. Just a simple question. Which high-priced Liberal consultant gave this stupid advice, or was this another one of the Prime Minister's tone-deaf decisions?
I just want to point out that maybe be judicious on the language that is being used in the chamber on both sides, whether you're asking the question or answering it. Order. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, as the honourable member across is well aware, this government has taken a series of measures to help those that are dealing with the global impact of inflation, and the party opposite has voted against every single one of those measures. It continues to oppose measures like the important grocery rebate that we put forward. Mr. Speaker, however, I would say to the party opposite, I get that they don't like the Prime Minister. I get that they have personal animosity and partisan attacks that they want to level against him. But I would ask them again, do they believe a Prime Minister should not be able to do at Christmas with his family travel, or do they believe that he should not have security when he does so?
Well, member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, all we're saying is that he should pay for his own vacations and not stick the bill to taxpayers. Well, Canadians were experiencing the chaos that his mismanagement of the airport system caused, the Prime Minister got to skip the queues and jet down on yet another Caribbean vacation. You see, the Prime Minister never has to pay for the terrible policies that his decisions make. Other Canadians have to pay for the higher costs of fuel that they put in their cars. He doesn't. He also doesn't have to pay for his own home heating fuel, and now we're finding out that he doesn't even pay for his own vacation. Treasury Board guidelines say he should reimburse at least the commercial costs. Did he?
The Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I can absolutely confirm that he did cover that cost, and I can also confirm to the member across that yes, absolutely. And I would ask him to step away from the idea of attacking this Prime Minister and from his partisanship and ask about a future Prime Minister and ask if that future Prime Minister would be afforded the opportunity to take a vacation with his family. And if he believes that that is the case, does he believe that Prime Minister should be afforded security? And if he does believe that, which is the vast preponderance of these costs, then certainly he would see that the actions taken were reasonable.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if the Government House Leader is going to answer specific questions, the Prime Minister dodged this question 5 times. Now, the Government House Leader just answered that yes, he does pay. But the specific question is, did the Prime Minister reimburse or pay for the commercial value of the accommodations? The accommodations for this luxury villa runs as high as $9,000 per night. Specific question, did the Prime Minister pay for it?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister taking a vacation with his family over Christmas with his friends is a preoccupation.
Okay, I want to remind the honourable members not to call each other names. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And it is clear in the question and in the way those questions are posed that the interest of the party opposite is a partisan interest. It is an interest to attack. It is an interest to advance their partisan advantage. I would ask them at this moment, when we're dealing with the series of issues that we're dealing in this planet, with global inflation, with a war in Europe, that their particular fixation with the Prime Minister being able to take a vacation with his family, with his friends at Christmas is very revealing, Mr. Speaker.
It is.
Honorable Député de Cherbourg.
The Honourable Member for Cherbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister spent a 2-week holiday at the home of Peter Green down south, which cost taxpayers over $160,000. He claims that the Ethics Commissioner gave him the green light for the trip, but I'm not sure if the Commissioner was aware that the location of the trip was at the home of a family of donors to the Trudeau Foundation. Can the Prime Minister tell us today whether the Ethics Commissioner was aware that the invitation came from a donor to the Trudeau Foundation, yes or no? The Honourable Leader. The question is clear. Is it possible for the Prime Minister to take a holiday with his family? If the Prime Minister goes on holiday with his family over Christmas, for example, is it possible for him to have security go with him? If that is the case, then yes, there is a cost. And it is that cost that is perfectly reasonable. The Honourable Member for Cherbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, well, the funny thing is that the media reports that the Prime Minister's entourage was concerned about the perception of such a trip. We know that 62% of Canadians are cutting back on their summer holiday plans because of inflation. But let's get back to the concerns of the Prime Minister's entourage. Were they concerned that the trip was taking place during a difficult time for Canadians, or was there concern that he was meeting with another Trudeau Foundation donor? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. It is evident that the concerns of the party across the way is a partisan concern. Now, there are many issues that are much more serious in Canada, like affordability, the cost of living, and these are issues that the budget that is being discussed today deal with. The Conservatives could vote for measures that will help people, but no, Mr. Speaker, they once again would rather be partisan. The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières, Radio-Canada. The Liberal propaganda antenna, according to the Conservative Party, tells us that the Prime Minister went to spend his Christmas holidays with friends, major donors to the Trudeau Foundation, childhood friends, one of whom is Pierre-Elliott Trudeau's godson, major donors to a foundation mired in suspicious donations linked to the Chinese regime. And it was to their home that the Prime Minister chose to go on a holiday. In addition to the lack of judgment and ethics, how can the Prime Minister continue to claim that he has no connection with the Trudeau Foundation? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. It is possible for the Prime Minister to say that because it is simply the truth. Over the last 10 years, the Prime Minister has not been involved with the Foundation. The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Well, that was a short answer. Mr. Speaker, there is reality and then there's the perception of reality. The Trudeau Foundation has received money from Chinese donors. Reality. The Prime Minister went on holiday to the home of major donors to the Trudeau Foundation. Reality. Marsh Rosenberg, commissioned by the Prime Minister to assess foreign interference in the elections, was CEO of the Trudeau Foundation. That's also a fact. David Johnston, the Prime Minister's Special Rapporteur on Chinese interference, is a member of the Trudeau Foundation. That's a fact. What is there to think except that the Chinese government is using the Trudeau Foundation to influence the Prime Minister, and that it is working? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. It is clear for every member here, on this side and the other side, we are all very much committed to Canada. Foreign interference, Chinese interference or other foreign interference, is here to try and destroy our democracy. This is something that is absolutely serious for us, and that is the reason for which we are acting in order to protect our country in all instances. The Honourable Member for Laurent Petit-de-la-Belle. Mr. Speaker, the problem is that we get lost in all of these distractions. The Trudeau Foundation is concerning, but what is even more concerning and worrying is foreign interference in our elections. Mr. Speaker, there is a foreign power, China, that is interfering in the democratic process, and that affects the confidence of the people. That is the crux of the matter. We absolutely need a public and independent commission of inquiry to ensure the integrity of the elections and to restore the confidence of the population. What are they waiting for? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, our system of democracy, our elections, our independent election system is essential not only for us, not only for the government, but for every single member of Parliament. And that is the reason for which we are making sure that there's a very reasonable person, a very well-known person, Mr. Johnson, former Governor General. That is the reason why we appointed him, to make sure that our system is protected.
Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Everyone agrees that a Prime Minister should be able to take a holiday. And everyone agrees that the cost of security is reasonable. And everyone knows, now that we've heard a direct answer with respect to the cost of the flight, what the Prime Minister did. What we don't know is if the Prime Minister did the reasonable thing and paid for his own accommodations, which any other Canadian would have to do. Did the Prime Minister pay the cost of a $9,000 per night villa when he went on that donor's trip?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Now, Mr. Speaker, one could ask the question when the party opposite now is deep into question period, asking only questions about the Prime Minister's trip over Christmas with his family, to see that their interest is partisan in nature and that their interest is to advance their own interests rather than the people that we're all elected to represent, Mr. Speaker. There is a budget in front of us right now of which they're asking no questions, which has absolutely critical measures to help those that are in need in the country right now. So I understand their particular fixation. I'm glad they agree with me the Prime Minister should take a vacation. I'm glad that they agree that the costs of security are reasonable, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, the government doesn't get to pick the questions that get asked, but it would be nice if they finally gave us an answer. So let me do some quick math for the government House Leader. The Prime Minister stayed there for 9 nights. It cost $9,000 per night for any other Canadian. Did the Prime Minister pay the full cost of $81,000 to stay there, or is this just another example of the Prime Minister being part of this elite class where he passed costs on to Canadians but incurs no costs himself?
The honourable leader of the government House Leader.
The Prime Minister has been very clear that this is a family that he has had a close personal relationship with for 50 years. And I don't know if the member opposite ever takes time at a friend's house over Christmas with his family or what he does. But what I would say, Mr. Speaker...
Sorry. Okay, the honourable government House Leader from the top, please.
Let's start from the top, Mr. Speaker, which is that the Ethics Commissioner was consulted on this trip. The Ethics Commissioner cleared this trip. The Ethics Commissioner made it clear that this trip was appropriate. The member opposite has agreed that a Prime Minister should be given the opportunity to have a vacation. The member opposite has also agreed that security costs, because he's the Prime Minister, are reasonable. He spent Christmas with his family and close personal family friends of over 50 years. Yes, that's what happened, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. The Prime Minister's brother is a member of the Trudeau Foundation, as the Prime Minister himself. The Trudeau Foundation received a cheque from the communist regime in Beijing through 2 military officers who will be reimbursed. Mr. Alexandre Trudeau received the cheque in the name of the foundation, but the receipt was issued in the name of another company in direct violation of the income tax regulations. Will the Prime Minister let this further evidence of Beijing's influence on his government through the Trudeau Foundation pass, or will he allow his brother to testify in a parliamentary committee? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, like the Prime Minister has clearly explained, there are no relations between the Prime Minister and the Foundation, and this for the past 10 years. And so it's not the Prime Minister's responsibility because there are no relations between him and the Foundation as it stands. Unfortunately, this is the case in a number of situations, Mr. Speaker. The party from the other side attacks the Foundation, attacks media, CBC, anyone they will attack, any kind of organisation they will attack.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's name is still in the Trudeau Foundation's annual report, and Alexander Trudeau wrote a book about his family's fascination with China. It's pretty clear that the Beijing regime has an influence on the Prime Minister. Not only did it use the foundation to increase its influence on the PM, but it did so illegally, with impunity, without caring about the CRA. Will the Prime Minister support a motion requesting that Alexandre Trudeau appear before a parliamentary committee? The Honourable Government House Leader.
The of the question that is being asked is whether or not this government would ever allow a foreign government to dictate or to influence our decision. The answer to that is a categorical no. And that secondly, Mr. Speaker, that embedded within that is a question, I would say, of the loyalty of members of Parliament to their country, and they can call it sanctimony. I call it my entire life. And I know that other members on the other side do it as well, that they have fought for our democracy every day of their lives. They fought to get here to be members of Parliament, and to have their patriotism questioned is unacceptable.
The honourable member for Hamilton Centre.
Episode of Lifestyles in the Rich and Famous, the Prime Minister and his family vacationed at the private Caribbean estate of the billionaire family friend and Trudeau Foundation donor. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister can't help himself from helping himself. Whether it's flying to the Aga Khan Island or the $6,000 a night hotels in London or his latest family luxury vacation, the Prime Minister keeps showing us just how out of touch he is with everyday Canadians. So, Mr. Speaker, when will this Prime Minister stop working for the billionaires and start working for the working class Canadians of this country?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I'm deeply proud of this government and this Prime Minister who have, over the last number of years, fought to make sure that Canada is a leader in the world, both economically and on tackling poverty, on making sure that we're there in the budget and other measures. Yes, the Prime Minister did take a vacation with his family, with family friends over Christmas. Yes, there was security costs that were involved with that. If a Prime Minister is to take a vacation, those costs are inevitable. They cannot be avoided. And I think we as a House have to think, do we believe that a Prime Minister should be able to take a vacation with his family? I believe he should be able to.
Yes, obviously.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, this government's joint environmental review process and oil sands monitoring program is a failure. Yeah. It's causing a public health crisis in Indigenous communities. First Nation and Métis people are dealing with millions of liters of toxic sludge in their communities. The Alberta Energy Regulator, the UCP, Imperial Oil, and this government are to blame. And now, the Liberal government is suggesting a working group. It's not good enough, Mr. Speaker. When will this government meaningfully deal with the toxic tailings ponds?
Hear, hear. Full Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since we've been made aware of the seepage incident at the Curl oil sand mine, we have been working to get to the bottom of it, support Indigenous communities, and collaborate on improving the reporting system of these kinds of incidents. Last week, I sent letters to Indigenous leaders about the new notification and monitoring working group, which, in collaboration with them, Mr. Speaker, we'll hope will improve the notification process in cases of future environmental emergencies. Thank you.
Well, Member for Scarborough-Agincourt.
Mr. Speaker, April is Daffodil Month. We recognize that cancer is a health issue that impacts nearly all Canadians, either through a personal diagnosis or that of a loved one. I wear this pin in remembrance of my late husband, Arnold Chan. Today, the Canadian Cancer Society representatives on the Hill to discuss the importance of working to improve the lives of those affected by cancer through world-class research, transformative advocacy, and compassionate support. Can the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions please update this House on current efforts our government is making to fight cancer?
Honourable Minister for Mental Health.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague from Scarborough-Agincourt for raising this important question and her heartfelt advocacy. We support the Canadian Partnership Against Cancer, which brings together all jurisdictions, organizations, community partners, and patients to achieve a common goal of equitable cancer care, prevention, treatment, and support for those living with cancer. The government has invested over $1 billion in cancer research in the last 5 years. I want to personally thank all the advocates doing the important work today on the Hill and every day in their communities.
The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, the Costly Coalition is also a cover-up coalition. Yesterday at committee, the NDP voted with the Liberals to shut down debate on our motion to investigate the Trudeau Foundation. This family foundation has been bankrolled by taxpayers and also by the communist regime in Beijing. They said money had been returned to the communist regime. That turned out not to be true. So why is the Costly cover-up coalition currently covering corrupt conduct clearly concocted and conducted contrary to Canada's national interest? When will these hearings take place?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I will continue. Sorry, the Leader of the Opposition just wants to congratulate on the alliteration. I don't mean to interrupt him as he congratulates his member. I just want to say, Mr. Speaker, that there are, again, opportunities to talk about any number of issues, and I'm happy to talk again about the Trudeau Foundation, which, as the Prime Minister has made clear, he has not had involvement with over the last 10 years. What I find disturbing, Mr. Speaker, whether or not it's the CBC, which they now are attacking as a partisan organization, or whether or not it's a myriad of different organizations, that their partisan attacks seem to have no bound because their interest is in fact partisan.
The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr.
Speaker, if there's nothing to hide, then why won't the cover-up coalition allow these hearings to take place? The fact is the Prime Minister is a member of the Foundation. His name is on their annual report. Why is he still a member of the Foundation? We would like to know. We would like to know why, after $125 million of taxpayers' money was given to this foundation, a foundation defined in statute as a government institution, why they said money was returned when it, in fact, was not. Again, will this cover-up coalition end the cover-up and allow committee hearings into what happened at the Trudeau Foundation?
Do it. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I don't believe that the definition of a cover-up is not agreeing to follow every conspiracy theory that the member opposite has. I think that, in fact, the House of Commons has an obligation to do the business of the nation. And the business of the nation right now, and I just spent 2 weeks, as I'm sure he did, talking to constituents, they're concerned about the global impacts of inflation. They're looking forward to getting a grocery rebate so that they can help to deal with the global costs of inflation. They're anxious to see that their healthcare system is protected, as we've been negotiating with other provinces to make sure that it's prepared and protected for future generations. I think that's what they want us to be studying, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Député de Louis.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, the Trudeau Foundation and the communist regime in Beijing are embarrassingly close, and we need to learn more about it. We need to get to the bottom of things for Canadians. Yesterday at a committee, the Liberals, with the support of the NDP, decided not to hold hearings to hear from Trudeau Foundation leadership. So, my question, will the government member and non-minister for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie rise in this House and say why, as a proud social democrat, he's participating in this Liberal cover-up?
Avant de nommer le leader.
Before recognizing the government House Leader, I'd like to remind the member that he needs to ask questions to the government and not other parties in the opposition. I would also like to remind everyone that it's not nice to make fun of each other.
Du gouvernement à la Chambre.
Monsieur le Président.
The Honourable Government House Leader, we see that political games are continuing here. It's in the interests of the parties on the other side. It's a matter of partisanship. It's in their interest to ask a lot of questions about a bunch of things that don't have any connection with reality. That's what we've seen about the CBC. They're trying to attack the independence of the CBC, which is completely unacceptable, Mr. Speaker, to attack such an important, independent institution. It's shocking, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Député de Louis.
The Honourable Member. Well, I'd like to congratulate the Minister for the quality of his French, but just because he's speaking French doesn't mean that what he says is any good, because the situation is the following. We're talking here about the Trudeau Foundation, not just any old foundation. When this foundation was founded around the turn of the millennium, this Liberal government gave it $125 million. Morally, this foundation should be held accountable to all Canadians, and the best way to do that is at a parliamentary committee. So why refuse to have its leadership show up at the committee? The Honourable Government House Leader. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I've already answered that question. The question that was just asked, but I have a question for the member across the way. What's his opinion on the attack against CBC Radio-Canada? Does he agree with his leader's position, attacking the independence of CBC Radio-Canada? What does the member across the way think of that?
Attends une minute, donne-moi 2 secondes.
Just a minute.
L'honorable député de...
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, last fall, we all remember that the Soccer World Cup took place in Qatar, And we were wondering whether it was acceptable to organize this kind of big event in countries that violate human rights. The Bloc Québécois asked for a diplomatic boycott, but the government still sent a minister to Qatar. And believe it or not, the Globe and Mail just revealed that that minister received a mandate from Foreign Affairs, which was to promote the sale of Canadian weapons. Weapon sales, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, is it acceptable to send the Minister of International Development to sell tanks to Qatar? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Always will be at the center of all of the work that we do. We will always hold the highest standards. The minister is regularly briefed and given advice by our officials. The talking points provided were not mentioned during this particular meeting. When it comes to contracts, exports, or programs of any sort, particularly defense exports, Canada has one of the strictest export control systems, which is based on careful review. Human rights will always be protected, and that is exactly what we aim to do.
The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, once again, this government said that it was sending people to Qatar to talk about human rights, but the briefing note provided by the department showed that the minister was there to promote the sale of armored vehicles. In fact, it was even in the key messages category. Armored vehicles are tanks. And I have a scoop for you, Mr. Speaker. Qatar will not use these tanks to promote human rights. How could this government ask the Minister of International Development, how could they ask that minister to sell tanks to Qatar?
Minister of International Development.
Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned, those particular talking points were not mentioned during that particular meeting. What we do know absolutely is that the minister, when he was there, raised on numerous occasions, raised human rights with his counterparts, in fact took the opportunity of the visit specifically to raise things like labor rights and other human rights issues, as we always do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, member for York Simcoe.
Sorry, kids. Disneyland's cancelled. That's what too many Canadians' parents are having to tell their children. 60% are scaling back their summer vacations due to inflation. But that hasn't stopped this Prime Minister from jetting off to Jamaica, costing taxpayers $160,000. Unbelievable. But while our Prime Minister catches some rays with his Trudeau Foundation cronies, Canadians just can't catch a break. Instead of cancelling Canadian vacations, will the Liberals stop the hypocrisy and cancel the carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
The hypocrisy is coming from the other side. They say that they care about Canadians and the affordability challenges that they're facing, but yet when they have an opportunity to actually support Canadians, what do? They vote against them. Mr. Speaker, they have another opportunity coming up to support Budget 2023 that is going to support Canadians with health care, to access the dentist, with the grocery rebate. Mr. Speaker, I unfortunately know that they're already going to be voting against Canadians because they declared that right from the outset, but they still have a chance to make a difference. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Regina Louvain.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm actually going to answer a question for these Liberals. Earlier in the question period, the Prime Minister asked, do we know what friendship is? Well, the answer is yes. But in Saskatchewan, when we have a friend, we share a case of Pilsner, not a private island with them, Mr. Speaker. This champagne and caviar trip cost the taxpayers $162,000. It's amazing. This high-flying carbon hypocrite flies all around the world and then comes back home and charges a single mother triple the carbon tax to heat her home and feed her kids. Will he cancel his out-of-touch carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, since the opposition likes to quote the PBO report on the issue of climate change, let me quote him, and he said, "I'm concerned at times about looking at just one aspect of my report." And I continue quoting the PBO, "Doing nothing would also have a cost." In fact, if they were interested in climate change, Mr. Speaker, they would look at the PBO report that shows that already it's costing Canadians $20 billion in 2021 in impacts of climate change. What's their response? Climate change is a hoax, Mr. Speaker.
Well, member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Well, maybe that minister should do something because he's never met an emissions target. Well, Mr. Speaker, another day, another billionaire island boondoggle. This time the Prime Minister jets off to Jamaica, and he costs the Canadian taxpayers over $160,000. And of course, he stays with a friend who's donated to the Trudeau Foundation because he's so independent from that foundation. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Canadians can't afford a vacation. They can't afford to eat and heat.
Yeah.
So will the Prime Minister end this double standard of living and axe the carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy to remind the honourable member that they never met any target that they had set on climate change. The national inventory reports, Mr.
I'm not even sure if it's heckling anymore or just people talking to each other. Just try to whisper if you're going to talk to each other. The Honourable Minister of the Environment, please, from the top.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So as I was saying, I would like to remind my honourable colleague that they never met any target that they set. And last week, Canada published a national inventory report which shows that between 2019 and 2021, we cut carbon pollution in Canada by 53 million tons, Mr. Speaker. 53 million tons. That's the equivalent of removing from our roads 11 million cars, Mr. Speaker. Our plan is working, and we are getting the job done. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Saint Laurent.
Mr. Speaker, the Canada-Chile trade agreement was modernized 5 years ago, and the two countries have had diplomatic relations for over 80 years. Canada is one of the most significant investors in Chile, and the development of the relationship will become crucial in areas like green energy and technology. Can the Minister of International Trade, Export Promotion, Small Business and Economic Development tell us about the recent trip to Chile and its results? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the economy and the environment go hand in hand. As I saw when I met with 25 companies in the area of green technology last week, including Onika Technology from Quebec, which is involved in desalinizing ocean water, or Summit Nanotech, which extracts lithium sustainably. That's a woman-led business, too. That is why Budget 2023 will be investing in tomorrow's sustainable technology. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the FBI arrested 2 suspected Chinese agents who are accused of having run a police station in New York. Recently, we heard that there are also police stations in the Montreal area that are being exploited by Chinese authorities. The U.S. is being proactive in dismantling these types of shadow police stations operated by Beijing. But Canada is not doing a single solitary thing. So, I'm wondering, what is the government waiting for? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, this government takes the matter of Chinese and foreign interference very seriously. So I will say, for my colleagues' benefit, that the RCMP has taken concrete action. It closed the so-called foreign police station managed by China. We will continue to invest resources on the ground and take action to protect our institutions, our communities, and Canadians. Thank you.
For Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the FBI arrested 2 individuals connected to the PRC's foreign interference threat activities. The FBI said that one of the individuals is connected to the illegal police stations the PRC established in Canada. Why does it take the FBI to take action to protect Canadian sovereignty on Canadian soil?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, with great respect, I think my colleague got the initials wrong. It was the RCMP that shut down the so-called police stations in Canada, and they will continue to take decisive, concrete action against those forms and all forms of foreign interference. And I would encourage the colleagues across the way in the Conservative Party to support the budget, which was advanced by the Minister of Finance, the Deputy Prime Minister, which puts more resources into the RCMP to protect our communities and to protect all Canadians from foreign interference.
Member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
All that's happened, Mr. Speaker, to this point is that the RCMP has parked police cars at these illegal stations, and that's not good enough. This government has had years to counter what CSIS has called a serious national threat to the security of Canada, but nothing has happened. No prosecution of anyone involved with these illegal foreign interference activities. No prosecution of anyone for these illegal police stations. No legislation introduced to counter Beijing's agents. No diplomats expelled. Why does it take the US of A to protect Canadians and Canadian sovereignty on Canadian soil?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague can continue to bury his head in the sand on the concrete actions that the RCMP and all agencies within the national security community are taking to protect our institutions. But the fact of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, that this government has done more than any other in the history of this country when it comes to putting in place the people, the resources, the authorities, and yes, Mr. Speaker, the transparency to shine a light on the way that we will continue to protect all of our democratic institutions and, most importantly, Canadians.
The Honourable Member for West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country.
Mr. Speaker, the First Nation Health Authority recently marked its 10-year anniversary as the gold standard for Indigenous health transformation based on self-determination. The First Nations Health Authority has worked to improve Indigenous health in a way that's respectful of distinct cultural practices and responsive to unique community needs. Can the Minister of Indigenous Services Canada please tell this House what she's doing to further support and improve First Nations-led healthcare across British Columbia?
Great question. The Honourable Minister for Indigenous Services.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his unwavering advocacy. We were so excited last week, Mr. Speaker, to sign another 10-year agreement with the First Nations Health Authority. I want to thank the First Nations Health Authority and Leadership Council for their incredible vision of the next 10 years providing self-determined health care services to Indigenous peoples across BC. Mr. Speaker, this is transformational.
Member for Courtenay, Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, we need real action to tackle the toxic drug crisis. I'm glad to see the Minister of Mental Health recently call out the leader of the official opposition for his misleading tweets on substance use and crime that create more harm. The Minister says we need to invest in our communities and provide care to those who use substances by providing support and empathy. Well, where is it? This is a national health crisis. The Liberals' incremental approach in this budget simply won't cut it. So when are the Liberals finally going to deliver a full-scale response outlined by their own experts?
The Honourable Minister for Mental Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for his ongoing advocacy. He is so right. The toxic drug and overdose crisis continues to take a tragic toll on the families, loved ones, and communities. Our government will continue to use every tool at our disposal to work with our partners to end this national public health crisis. Since 2017, we've committed more than $1 billion to address the overdose crisis, and we are taking concrete steps to divert people who use drugs away from the criminal justice system. Approving BC's decriminalization proposal for personal possession was an important first step, and we've supported 31 projects.
The Honourable Member for London, Fanshawe.
Since October, Canadian armed forces have been in Poland to train their Ukrainian counterparts to fight against Putin's horrific invasion. But once again, this federal government has cut corners at their expense. Instead of sending military cooks to Poland, they tried to save a few bucks by telling troops to foot the bill. Military families have been forced to dip into savings to send money for food, and some are still waiting to be reimbursed by this government. Will the Minister of Defense commit today to stop the cuts and ensure our forces have what they need to eat?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, I am so pleased that the member opposite brought up the very point of Canadians assisting the Ukrainian armed forces in their time of need. Not only have we trained 36,000 members of the Ukrainian armed forces, we are in England, we are in Poland, we are in Latvia continuing to support Ukraine in its time of need. And we will always stand up for the Canadian armed forces here at home and abroad, ensuring that they have what they need to protect and defend this country. Thank you.
That's all the time we have today for question periods.
That's all the time that we have. Following discussions among representatives of all parties in the House, I understand that there is an agreement to observe a moment of silence.
I now invite the House to rise and observe a moment of silence in memory of the victims of the tragic event that happened 3 years ago in Nova Scotia. Orders of the day.
Government orders. Resuming debate on Ways and Means motion number 10 concerning the budgetary policy of the government and on the amendment of Mr. Poilievre.
Resuming debate, the Honourable Member for Humber River Black Creek has 5 minutes remaining in questions and comments. Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was at a trade show in my riding on the weekend, and the Liberal Party actually had a booth there, and they had in big letters, enter a draw, win a race car test drive. So many people were excited. They thought it was a race car, and they realized it was actually a test drive. And unfortunately, this is the approach of the government's programs in many ways. They're promising the moon, and they're not delivering. They're promising giveaways with money that's borrowed that we can't afford, programs that are not sustainable. Why is the Liberal Party in my riding and the Liberal Party here in the House continuing to